Hi there, I'm Bevan Thompson and welcome to the Wellbeing Whiz Omnicast. What is an Omnicast? Well, an Omnicast is a video podcast. It's also an audio podcast. It's also a blog on my website. It's many, many things. It's more than just a podcast, basically. And I'm the Wellbeing Whiz. I'm an anxiety coach who helps people manage their anxiety and start to live a better life. Now, what qualifies me for this, you're asking? Well, I used to suffer very badly from anxiety myself around maybe 10 years ago. I had all the symptoms you could think of, the sort of sweaty palms, the dizzy head, the random thoughts, racing thoughts. It turned to depression. It was essentially a living nightmare. And I spent a long time with doctors going through things like hypnotherapy. I tried tablets. I tried a lot of the different solutions. And I found the only thing that helped me was starting to go back to the start, work out how my thoughts worked, work out how they were creating my emotions, how I was creating this anxiety. And what I did, I created a framework and kind of cured myself. That led on to me thinking, hang on a minute, other people should benefit from this, and the Wellbeing Whiz was born. I set up as a coach, helping people manage their anxiety and helping them live a better life, as I say. The Omnicast every week is about sharing tips about this, interviewing other people about their anxiety, me talking about ways to understand anxiety and how to cure it, and essentially just a place where you can learn more about anxiety itself and sort of sharing a lot of people's experience with it. Welcome to the Wellbeing Whiz Omnicast episode 19. Now then, I've had a lot of people say, can you carry on the interviews? So I have. So Fierce Female February has morphed. It's changed. It's become a new thing. It's now, and I need to read this because it's the first time I've read it, the Marvellous Matriarchs of March. Say that when you've had a drink or two. That was suggested by the lovely Laura, who was our guest a few weeks ago. So thank you, Laura, because I'm struggling for a name. This week, I've got a fab guest for you. Her name is Karolyn Gamble. She is a lady of many talents, and she is one of the Marvellous Matriarchs of March. Hi, Karolyn. How are you?
Hi, Bevan. I am good. Thank you ever so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this today.
Oh, well, it's always fun. How about you tell us a wee bit about yourself and why you're marvellous and why you're in March?
Okay, that's quite a setup. Thanks very much. So a little bit about me. I am a wife and a mum, first and foremost. I have a daughter, Madison, who is 6 years old, going on 16. I also am now a self-employed business owner, having left my previous corporate job of 20 years during the 2020 lockdown. So yes, going into 2021, I am actually a business owner of 2 businesses. Oof. And loving life. It's great. I've never things have never been better, apart from the fact we're still in lockdown, of course, but that'll change.
Apart from that, they're all good. But I think that's been a kind of a recurring theme with a lot of people I've spoken to. A lot of changes have happened in lockdown, and people are a lot more happy in what they're doing. They're taking risks, they're doing things they've never done before, learning, that life doesn't have to be this corporate grind, and it's been a good thing. But so what are your 2 businesses? Give us a rough underline of those, and then we'll crack on with the podcast.
Cool. Okay. So by day, for want of a better way of putting it, sort of my main business is Dream Big Digital Marketing. So I help independent business owners to define their customer message and then implement it so it generates a healthy pipeline of leads and sales through digital marketing. But by alter ego, if you want to say it.
Like Batman.
Yeah, I probably feel like I should have a cape designed or something like that. But I'm also, under that caped crusader disguise, the founder of a movement called Eat, Sleep, Mum, Repeat. And we are a community of mums with a shared vision, let's put it that way. We want to do more, be more, and achieve more for ourselves and for our kids, whilst still being kick-ass parents. Is the way that I sum it up.
That's a lovely little elevator pitch I'm in, and I'm not even a mum. Where do I sign?
Well, it's not just for mums. Dads are welcome on board too.
Oh, there you go. But Eat, Sleep, Parent Repeat doesn't sound quite as exciting as Eat, Sleep, Mum, Repeat, does it? It's not quite snappy. So yeah, I totally get why
it doesn't quite have the same ring to it, does it?
No.
And I tried versions of it. Eat, Sleep, Mum and Dad Repeat doesn't quite work either.
No. Eat, Sleep, Legal Guardian.
So anyway,
repeat.
being a mum, it just doesn't work, does it? So
we'll
yes, I
definitely get into that a bit more later. Yeah. because that's something that I'm really interested in.
Yeah.
Listeners will be interested in as well. So we'll definitely delve into that in a bit. But as you know, what I do, I help people manage their anxiety, and that's what a lot of people tune in to hear about, people's experience with anxiety. Is it something that you've suffered from or had interaction with?
Yes, both, I would say. I think we're all affected by anxiety at some point or other in life. Maybe some of us to a lesser or greater degree, depending on the situation and the person. But I wouldn't say I'm an overly anxious person generally. Actually, most people tell me I'm usually pretty calm and collected, which, you know, I think is a good thing. But being calm and collected on the outside doesn't always necessarily mean that that's how you're feeling on the inside, is it? And I, you know, I've become more and more aware of that the older, and I don't know if I'd say wiser, but, you know, the older and grayer I've got, let's put it that way. And anxiety is something that my mum has always struggled with throughout her life, both, you know, before being a parent and obviously as I've grown up as well. Hopefully I'm not the cause of it, but anyway, that's a different story. I can recall various times in my life that have caused me anxiety, and I mean, some of them would probably be quite common to most people. I think, you know, like your GCSEs and A-level exams, for example, you know, are probably a time that most people remember in their lives as not particularly relaxing.
It's that kind of, if you don't do well, then your entire life collapses before your very eyes.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's the same with job interviews. You know, as you go through life and out into the job market, you know, job interviews can be fairly, you know, anxious creating events. We've had quite a few difficult times with my family, my immediate family over the years that have caused me anxiety. But probably the one thing that sticks out, and it bringing me back to what Eat, Sleep, Mum, Repeat is all about. One of the things that sticks out for me is the sense of anxiety that I've had more than ever since becoming a mum. And I think it's a constant thing that's always there in the background. It's not something that comes and goes as a parent. You're constantly wondering, you know, are you any good at it? Can you do better? Can you or should you be doing more? You know, just there's so many ways that parenting it's the most rewarding, but also the most sort of stressful and anxiety inducing job you can do, isn't it?
And no matter how many times people say to you, oh, you know, don't worry, you're doing it the right way, still like comparing yourself to other people, comparing yourself to what national averages of X, Y, and Z, whatever. It's that, there's no metrics to say I'm a good parent. There's only your own doubts and your own kind of high standards that will probably never be met, because that's what people do, is set standards and never meet. There's no kind of like, right, you've got 9 out of 10 on your parenting test today.
Yeah. I always remember my mum, when we were kids, and even growing up as I've hit adulthood, my mum always used to say to me, parenting does not come with a manual. Like there's no such thing as a how to parent. You know, the single, you know, manual. If there was, it'd be enormous, wouldn't it?
Oh, it'd be big, wouldn't it?
Start.
I don't know where I keep that.
There is no such thing as the perfect parent. And yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. Like, comparing yourself to others is just one of the worst ways to create anxiety out of the situation, isn't it? So, but yes, did that answer the original question?
Absolutely, yeah. So, and so what? I mean, because obviously when I suffered from anxiety, I had a lot of symptoms that came with it. Is that something you've not suffered from then? Is it more kind of the thought side of it, the comparison and things with parenting?
Again, it probably for me has depended on the situation. That whole sort of calm and collected exterior, for the most part, probably means that externally I haven't really displayed many outward signs of anxiety. Probably for me, the hardest part is that sense of not being in control, and that's something that can very much be going on, you know, inside under that calm, collected surface. I found a few ways to control it over the years, and probably more so recently than ever. One way that I'm getting increasingly into is meditation, but even more simply than that, introducing breathing exercises has been almost a miraculous sort of help for day-to-day anxiety. You know, everything from dealing with an overwrought child, or an overtired child, or a hyperactive child, or just, the older they get, the more argumentative they get, or any situation in life, just taking a moment to stop and breathe and think about where this sits in the grand scheme of things is invaluable, I think.
That's a fantastic piece of advice. The sort of the grand scheme of things. I love that. It's a great phrase, because when you're having a bit of a funny time at home, or a funny time at work, or anywhere, it seems like the biggest thing on the planet. Yeah. When actually, if you think about, like, do I really have to react to my child being angry because they're not allowed an extra chocolate biscuit or whatever? Is it the biggest fight I need to fight today? Is it the biggest fight in the world today? And that, like you say, that having a moment and being in the moment and having a breath and thinking and sort of prioritizing it. That's cool. Yeah, I like that. That's brilliant. And so, is there anything particular that's like you follow for breath exercises? Is there any sort of particular? I'm just going off topic a wee bit, but
there is. So my go-to thing, literally, because it takes a minute, so you can do it anywhere, anytime, whatever situation you're in, is a breathing technique called Innercise, and I won't sort of go into huge detail about what it is right now, but if you take the concept of, exercise as we all understand it is for the physical body, Innercise is a process of sort of training and improving and I suppose kind of toning your brain and your mind. And it's taken from a book, I'm not going to take credit for it, definitely not. It's taken from a book that I've read by the same title, called by an author called John Assaraf, which I'd highly recommend to anybody. It was my single biggest takeaway from that entire book, was just anytime, anywhere, you can take a minute out of your day to just follow this Innercise process, and it's amazingly restorative. It's fantastic.
Do you know what? I'm going to give that a go. To mind everyone that's listening. That sounds awesome. So Innercise.
Yeah.
But I haven't.
That's a completely free plug. I don't earn any money out of promoting John Assaraf.
You probably should start to
have that for free.
You should get some sort of commission deal.
But yeah, to be honest, that follows like the general pattern for me. Maybe I'll give him a call and see if I can.
I should do at least once this week, John. Come on, let's a couple of quid.
Certainly do a good job for him. It is an awesome book.
I mean, I may have jumped forward in my questions, and that might be the answer to one of the later questions. But so, how did you feel when you got these sort of techniques and you finally managed to control it? Is there sort of feeling you would sort of describe? Like, have you achieved some sort of, like, I don't know, plateau with it? Have you managed it? Have you conquered it? Or is it a sort of, you have to keep doing these things to remain in that vibe?
Completely. You have to keep doing these things. There's no such thing as a one-time fix, I don't think. For me, I mean, you will know, because obviously we know each other pretty well, that I'm a huge fan of personal development. It's something that I got into, 4 or 5 years ago now, and for me it's now a lifelong journey. I read a lot of books, all to do with essentially sort of personal development, whether that's learning new skills, whether it's learning about yourself, whether it's learning to manage your emotions, your thoughts, all of that, or whether it's just motivational books, things that give you ideas, things that give you inspiration. I've found that they've helped me to learn so much about myself, how to recognize anxiety and its cousins, so overwhelm, panic, all those kind of things. And crucially, they've helped me work out what works for me specifically, because not everyone's the same. I find that for me, it often manifests in overwhelm. I've recognized to learn that feeling. Say that the right way around. I've learned to recognize that feeling, and the one thing, other than the Innercise that I've mentioned, the one thing that I've found really works for me is to take time to sit and write things down. When I find that overwhelm sort of threatening, or it's arrived and it's sort of sat on my shoulders, I do find that just taking time out and just sitting and writing down sort of everything that comes into my head is really important, because it allows me to focus, and I've learned to pick out the one thing that really needs doing out of all of those things. And I mean the single most important thing that will move me to towards where I want to be. I don't mean, you know, the thing that everybody expects me to do, or the thing that I feel I should do, or, you know, anything like that, but picking out the one thing that will have the most impact. And it's funny, I was, again, as a parent, watching the Frozen 2 film, as I imagine most parents have.
I'm proud to say I've never seen either.
Have you not? They're good films.
With a daughter, I've managed to avoid both, and I don't know how I've done it.
They're very good films.
Disney singing drives me up the wall.
No, see, I'm a lifelong Disney fan. I would choose to sit and watch a Disney film even if my daughter wasn't there as the excuse to watch the Disney film.
Solo Disneying.
I would. But anyway, to coin the phrase from the Frozen 2 film, you know, most people, unlike you, will have seen it. There is a phrase in there about focusing on just doing the next right thing. And that stuck with me. That reinforces that message from all that reading and that personal development that I've done to fight that overwhelm and work out how you move forward.
And it's funny, you're doing exactly a lot of the things that I would actually suggest that a lot of people do when they're on my course, when they're working with me. The thought download idea of writing everything down, taking a look at your thoughts. You can notice themes, you can notice where you're procrastinating, where you're not. There's a lot of things will come out from getting it out of here, stopping it running around, stopping it being a noise. It stops being a voice and starts being a sentence, which is a completely different thing to look at. And like you say, you can pick the one that has the most impact and can create the most change in your situation, rather than which voice shouts loudest inside your head. You know, once it's on that paper, it's a bit more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not so esoteric. It's more tangible. It's there. It's real, and it's like, right, what can I prioritize on this bit of paper? Yeah, and it's a technique I encourage people to do all the time. So you don't need my course then. Brilliant.
Well, no, if anything, I'll throw that back at you and go, in that case, I would recommend to anybody that they follow your course. It will work.
And there's the marketing skill right there.
There you go. You're welcome.
So is there a process that you go through in your work life? And let's maybe focus on, actually, I'll let you focus on what you like in your work life, helping people leading a happier sort of life mentally. What's the sort of secret source of what you do that helps people get towards their goals, whether it's designing or whether it's the eat, sleep, mum, repeat side of it?
Yeah, so
designing was wrong.
I suppose with my eat, sleep, mum, repeat hat on, my whole message is underpinned by one of personal development, 100%, like reading and listening to, whether it's educational, motivational, inspirational material from, you know, respected people who are knowledgeable in their respected field. You can't beat, you know, learning from other people who've got where they are, not just because they've done everything right, but because actually they've done a lot of things wrong along the way, and so they can help you avoid some of those same pitfalls. But probably the core theme for me from the personal development aspect for the mums and parents in my community is that the most important person to look after in your life is you, and that isn't a selfish thing. It's not selfish to spend time on improving and looking after your mental and your physical and your emotional well-being. Actually, it's quite the opposite. You know, you have to make yourself your number one priority in order to then show up well for your kids, your husband or wife, your partner, your friends, your colleagues, you know, at any aspect of life. If you're not looking after yourself, then all of those relationships suffer, and that's a fact. Like it's proven that that's true. To use a common analogy to sort of make that point, when you go on a flight, you know, you go on an aeroplane.
You beat me to it. I was about to say it, but go for it.
You know what I'm going to say, don't you? They always tell you to put your own oxygen mask on first before helping others. But that's true for every aspect of life, not just, you know, in an emergency on an aeroplane. You, again, to coin another phrase, you can't pour from an empty cup. You've got to fill your own cup before you can pour into others. And for us mums especially, parents generally, but, you know, speaking from a mum's point of view, it's a really common trap that we fall into. We're so busy, doing it all, raising the kids, being a good parent, being a good wife or partner, being a good colleague, good friend, running the household, doing the school runs, etc., 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 that it's very easy to omit our own time for our own well-being, but it's a really bad trap.
And there's also that's like guilt that comes with it.
Exactly, it's not just us that suffer for that. Everybody around us suffers, and it's important that we make time and then take that time for ourselves to spend on doing something that either gives us a sense of purpose and fulfillment outside of that core role of being a mum, or that we are taking time just to reset and breathe. And I think that's that's crucial. That the part I try to play with my Eat, Sleep, Mum, Repeat community is to help mums realise that that's the case, and then signpost them towards ways that they can better do that for themselves, and then see all the benefits play out from that across their life as a result.
And that's it. The guilt factor is something that it's like that kind of, I'm taking time for myself. That's selfish. That's not right. But it's like you say, if you can instill that in people and let them know it is right, it is fair. And that analogy, like I say, I always preface it with my friend Phil once told me. And it's funny, every single podcast I kind of trot out, my friend Phil once told me. So yeah, I can't believe he didn't put that in front of it. Trademark Phil. But anyway, it wasn't trademarked by Phil, he just told me.
Next time I will.
Yeah, you have to say, best friend Phil once told him. But I don't think it was Phil that said it. I think he got it from somewhere else. But yeah, it was Phil that first said it to me. So I always say, my friend Phil once said to me. Anywho, so if there's one sort of common myth you'd like to dispel about mums and mumming, how about that? That's a good mums and mumming. What would it be? What would you sort of say is the most common held myth about mums and mumming?
Oh, yeah.
That sounds like a 70s magazine. Mums and mumming.
Good question. With a slightly retro theme to it, but it is a good question. Again, just thinking about sort of what my main message is with Eat, Sleep, Mum, Repeat. Probably the thing I'd want to dispel is that once we've become a parent, we are not defined by just being a mum or a dad. There's so much more to us, and so much more that we have to offer. And actually, to go a stage further than that, being more than a mum is not only good for us, as I've suggested, it's actually necessary for being a truly kick-ass parent and an all-round, good, healthy person, instead of just a mediocre one. So that, yeah.
Love that. And I love the kind of cyclical nature of it. To be a good parent, you have to be a good you to be a good parent. It's like almost like a kind of, it's a self-fulfilling thing. And yeah, I like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Big one for development you are, as we've heard. Are there sort of, can you name me 3 people who have helped in either your career or your personal development or your life that you would say were sort of stuck in the fabric of Karolyn, of you as a person?
Gosh. Oh, there are so many.
We could have 27, but it'll make a really long episode.
Yeah, it would. We might have to come back to the long list. My short list, my top 3.
Oh, so you're not allowed to include me. I've told people this before. You're not allowed to include me.
Okay, sorry. Okay, right. So
let's change the 3.
My top 2, 3, and 4 then are Jim Rohn. Like the godfather of all things philosophy and personal development. There's not many people who wouldn't put Jim Rohn top of their list once they know who he is and have read and listened to his stuff. Mel Robbins.
I like Mel Robbins.
Is one of my absolute fierce female heroes. I love her. And Jack Canfield would probably be up there in the top. He's a couple of his books, really well-known books, I go back to time and time again, and you take something different from them every time you read them. So yeah, in terms of, I suppose, kind of authors of personal development, either books or audiobooks, yeah, they'd be my top 3.
And I love those kind of books where, like you say, that they're kind of like a life Bible you can go back to, and you kind of, oh, I forgot that, and then it kind of re-energizes you and go again. And it's those kind of books are brilliant. Yeah, I love those. I'll have to. I think it reminds me, I'd better go back to a few of them now as well. It's nice when someone mentions them and you go, oh, yeah, I will. I'll go back and read that.
Definitely. Yeah.
So nice segue. That's my word of the day. Into, if you could suggest one book that everyone who's listening should read to help them make their life better, what would it be? One.
Oh gosh, again, there's so many I could recommend. I mean, as you can probably tell from the bookshelf behind me, I am, I walk the walk as well as talk the talk. I read and listen to so much stuff. For today, knowing your audience, knowing my Eat, Sleep, Mum, Repeat audience, the one I would go with, sticking with Mel Robbins, is her audiobook called Kick-Ass.
Yes, I like that.
You can, it ties in nicely with my theme of kick-ass parenting. It's almost as if she knew that I was going to go down that route. Who knew? But the best thing about it is that if you're not yet an Audible subscriber, then you can get it for free with your membership for Audible. So kill two birds with one stone. Go and get your membership and get a free copy of it and have a good listen. It's amazing.
There you go. Sorry, and not on commission from Audible either. But
not on Audible either. I know.
But that is good, yeah.
That, don't I?
And sometimes with those books specifically, if they're read out by the author, it gives it that extra dimension of it kind of plants it more firmly in your mind if you listen to that, especially the motivational stuff, the more kind of, I would never listen to a fiction book, for example, on audiobook, but when it comes to the actual author reading it, it's like they're almost talking directly to your subconscious. It's a lovely old job. And
I agree with that, absolutely. Like Mel especially has a great delivery style. She's read all her own books. She self-published her early ones and then read them herself, and she just has a way of not just conveying her point really well, but of really like grabbing you by the heart and sort of pulling you in and giving you the message that you need to hear. I'm not ashamed to admit that whenever I listen to a Mel Robbins book, I can be out, doing my walk around the park or whatever it is, with tears streaming down my face. I'm either laughing or I'm crying, or I'm sort of exclaiming out loud that, she knows what she's talking about. And that's the sign of a well-written
power. So I would suggest people listen to it rather than read it, actually. Yeah, definitely. And if you haven't got an Audible, get cracking. And I think she's got a YouTube channel as well. I think I've seen a few videos on Facebook she shares. She must have a YouTube channel as well.
Yeah.
Every now and again I see a video of hers and I'm like, stop scrolling, watch that, because it's Mel Robbins, it's bound to be good. So I would totally agree with that. Moving on, if there's one thing my listeners could do each day, like a ritual or something to aid their well-being, to make their life a little bit better, what would you suggest to do? Is there anything you do every day that?
Yes. Gosh.
I mean, there's some things everyone does every day. Let's not include those. I'm talking about special things.
Yeah, you're not looking for like brush my teeth, are you?
No. I mean, that's a good well-being tip. Otherwise, your teeth will fall out. But yeah, I'm talking sort of,
Go on then.
Make it more clear what I was on about.
Yes, the one that, and it will resonate with everything I've said so far. The one thing I would suggest that you make sure you do every day is make time.
I was going to say make your bed. Sorry.
No. Sorry, did I hesitate just too much?
Make your bed. No, sorry.
That's also a good tip. But no, I'm going with make time. So make time, and then make sure you use that time to read or listen to some personal development and to refill your own cup. That's my message. One of my favorite quotes on this topic is, if you want time, make time. You will never find time. And it's so true. Like you have to make that time for you. It won't just happen.
That's the quote on a t-shirt. You have to make time from you. It won't just happen. Oh, lovely. Yeah. I'm a bit of an obsessive about time travel. In fact, I've got a video course coming out about time travel soon. If you could travel back in time to see the 20-year-old yourself, what advice would you give her? You'd obviously say, you went to a school to a very similar cool person. You'd say that to them straight away.
That's sort of disclosed there. We went to the same school, but at very different times. We worked out when I'd left by the time you started, so let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, you're popping back to see 20-year-old self and say you went to Joe Witt, just like that really cool fella, and then you're going to say what?
Then I'm going to say, believe in yourself. You are, and this is a message for everybody, not just me. You are capable of so much, and you have so much to offer. And you have to avoid at all costs comparing yourself to other people. It's not healthy, it's not helpful, it is actually just harmful. And I've learned, it's taken me a long time to learn that. So if I could go and tell my 20-year-old self that, it would be invaluable. The only comparison that you should make is with yourself, to make sure that you're growing and learning, and to make sure that you're a better version of yourself today than you were yesterday. And that's it.
Clip that. Bang. That's going on the start of the podcast. That's lovely. But I like the avoid. I was like, avoid. Dave Smith in Limos nightclub on the 24th of January. It was like the word avoid. I was like, oh, this is going to be a good story. But it wasn't.
Your brain goes in some funny directions. And
it does. When I do the write-ups of these podcasts, it's like, oh, wow. Like the things we talk about. And I put them all in there going like, oh, crikey. What kind of tangents have I gone off? So yeah, Dave Smith in Limos nightclub will get mentioned.
Amazing.
My last two questions for you, and these are my two favourites. My personal favourite is, what question would you have liked me to ask you that I didn't?
Oh, okay. I'm glad you asked. Probably, how can your listeners get involved with the Eat, Sleep, Mum, Repeat movement?
This lady is a marketing dervish. Look at that. So allow me, just one moment. Hi, Karolyn. I'm just wondering, how can my listeners get involved in the Eat, Sleep, Mum, Repeat movement?
Well, Bevan, I'm so glad you asked.
You should ask that.
Well, first of all, you will find us across Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Go and find us there. Plenty of stuff every day that we post in terms of resources, hints, tips, things to generally motivate you in the right direction. But I have a free guide that I like to tell everybody about, which is my top 5 books for kick-ass parenting. And hopefully we can share the link with this podcast, and then everybody can go and
will do. Absolutely. And of course, are you on? Is that on your socials as well for Eat, Sleep, Mum, Repeat? Is it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'll make sure they're like tagged in as well when I do it. But yeah, definitely do that. So good answer. And again, give me I hate the word elevator pitch. Always hated it, but like a 30-second blast of what Eat, Sleep, Mum, Repeat stands for, just so people can somewhat bookending the conversation with that.
Okay, so Eat, Sleep, Mum, Repeat came about because as a new mum, I felt I'd got quite stuck in life. I felt as if becoming a mum almost defined me to the point where none of the rest of me continued to really be necessary. I felt quite unfulfilled, felt like I'd lost some of my identity. But the more I opened up and told people about that, the more I realised that there were so many other mums out there feeling the same way, and that wondering if it was okay to feel that way and what they should do about that. And for me, that's what Eat, Sleep, Mum, Repeat has been born out of. I'm here to essentially inspire and signpost people towards knowing that there can be and should be so much more to life than being a mum. And as we've said before, it's self-fulfilling. The more you work on yourself, the better you show up for your kids and everyone else in life.
I think it's a fabulous thing. I think it's really, it's what's needed. I think, like you say, there's too many people comparing, there's too many people stuck in a hole and perhaps creating anxiety and depression from it. Yeah. There's too many people worried about this, like the perfect parenting, like we were talking about before. It's a perfect little community. I would suggest anyone go and get involved in that. And that's a heartfelt thing. I'm going to sign up and pretend I'm a mum.
You don't have to pretend at all.
Pretend, damn it. That's one of my favourite things.
All right then, you go crazy.
So We have a question every week from the previous guest. We have like a chain question. Last week, we had the lovely Rebecca Barr on the podcast, the femalepreneur coach, and she asked the following, which is quite a good question for her because she is a business and mindset coach. What does success look like to you?
Oh, that's a good question.
It is a good one, isn't it?
Oh, and it's so few words and so many potential answers. You're not going to be surprised if I tell you I've kind of already defined for me what this means. So I've kind of got a bit of a head start on giving the answer, not just because, you know, your last podcast guest asked it, but I've taken the time to ask myself this question before. It's a really important question to ask. And it took me a long time to figure out what the answer was. And then I managed to sort of refine it and refine it and refine it. And the short answer is, for me, it's doing what you want, when you want, how you want, and with who you want to do it. It's that simple.
Boom. I've got too many clips to put on the advert this week. You're a walking clippable machine. That's a fabulous answer. That's great. I mean, I've not really, do you know, that's something I need to think about. I need to think about what success means to me. I would say it's quite similar to that, like that freedom aspect of, because that encompasses everything, doing what you want, when you want. With it's like, because that means you've got financial backing to do so. It means you've got, it encompasses everything, your answer. That's quite good.
Absolutely does. Yeah.
Well
and like
impressed.
I say, I didn't just arrive at that off the top of my head one day, you know, miraculously. A lot of work and time and effort and sort of soul searching and
Mel Robbins listening.
What's important to me has gone into that. But ultimately, like you say, that's what it refines down to. Yeah.
Covers every base. Oh, I like that. So then, with that, you get to ask my next guest a question, and it can be sensible as that one, or it could be daft as we had, what would you eat for £1 million? Any kind of question you like, you can ask. I'm not going to tell you who next week's guest is, but you can ask them a question. What would you like to ask them?
Okay. And interestingly, mine's gone down a similar route, but it probably makes sense considering everything we've talked about. My question would be, what's the one thing you would do if money and time were no issue?
See, I always drag Lindsay Lohan back in this answer, but I don't think I can this week. I don't know.
If I want to pull on that thread, Bevan.
I would have a cracking holiday. I think it's because we're locked in at the minute. I'm like, beach, sunshine, just anything, really. Just like, the first thing that came to mind was like, a really expensive holiday. What would you do if money and time were no object?
Wow. Well,
or did you not think about answering your own question?
I've got a bucket list as long as my arm.
Right.
My top two, in terms of, like, I love traveling. I love traveling the world. So my ultimate destination is to go to the Galapagos Islands.
My little brother's been there.
You know someone who's been?
But Daily, my little brother's been there, yeah.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad's been as well. My dad went, oh gosh, about 10 years ago now. So yeah, it's definitely up there. The other thing I want to do is design and build my own house.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's kind of top of the bucket list too.
Crikey. Top of my bucket list is to go to Rishikesh in India, where the Beatles went in the 60s, to meet the Maharishi, and apparently the compound's still there, so I kind of want to go there and see that. Now I've had some time to think. My bucket list has started to drop in, so I've got all sorts. I want to, but that's the main one. I want to go to Rishikesh. And I've been to almost every state in America, so I need to go to Alaska, Hawaii, and California to tick them all off.
Oh,
so
wow, that's amazing.
They're on my list as well. So yeah, that'd probably be, if I had to really think about it seriously, that would be it, rather than including Lindsay Lohan and I don't know, whatever else.
Yeah, silly.
I have to make sure she gets mentioned every week now, because one day she'll be on as a guest.
You're manifesting it, aren't you? I can tell.
Absolutely, on the quiet. I'm not sure my wife will be happy with that. But anyway, I just want to say a massive thank you for you to come in. I know it's eating into your day, and chatting to me eats into your day massively, as you know. So thank you for coming out. I'm sure
always happy for it too, though.
The listeners will get a great chunk out of coming and learning more about Eat, Sleep, Mum, Repeat, because I think it's a great little thing. And of course, get yourselves over onto Facebook, get yourselves over onto Twitter. Do you say Instagram? All the socials, basically. Yeah. Check it out. But I'll stick it in the show notes. And yeah, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure as always to chat to you.
It's been really good fun. Thank you. I've really enjoyed it. And yeah, hopefully, people will find some value in that. I I'm trying to be the person that I felt I needed, 5, 6, 7 years ago. If I can help other mums, go from where I was, where they are, to somewhere better, then I'll be more than happy.
And again, a perfect clip to put. I've got too many. You've given me too many little sound bites to use. But honestly, thank you so much for coming, and speak to you soon. I just need to mention, of course, if you have issues with anxiety, if you want to learn how to manage your anxiety better, then pop onto my website, www.thewellbeingwiz.com/calm mind. Download your free Calm Mind books, Worry Less in 7 days. 7 ways to worry less? I don't know. Worry less in 7 days. I only wrote it. But anyway, thanks for listening, and I'll see you all next week. Cheers.
Cheers.